Okay, we're ready to go. Welcome, everyone. It's not my own personal show. Usually I do L&D updates, but this one's an extra special one because they've let me loose after work. So it's going to be a wild hour. So in this next hour, we're talking about what working in tech really looks like. My name is Khaled. I am the L&D business partner at Opencast. I nearly forgot my role. So on the panel today, who do we have? We have Ed Harrison. Hi, Ed. We have Kerry-Anne Kane. We have Mark Hall. And online, we should have Srilekha. Are you there?
Yes, hi.
Yeah, Srilekha Ganesan as well. So round of applause for our panel. Welcome. What am I supposed to talk about? Okay, let's get started. So first of all, thank you for coming. People in the room, if you need the toilet, I don't know why I'm laughing at that. It's just at the end on the left. People online, do what you like. If there is a fire alarm, it's not a drill. I repeat, it is not a drill. So run in that direction or at the front with the main doors. The assembly point is by Cake Stories. So you can help yourself to a coffee and cake. I don't think they're open though. I'm not sure. We encourage you to ask questions. It is, well, hopefully we've created an engaging session. People online, please leave your questions in the chat box and we'll get back to you. If we do, for some reason, because we're talking so much, run out of time, we will do an FAQ. Yes, we are dedicated to the cause. So this session, we'll be exploring the reality of career in tech. So what we've done is we've gone to our Opencast colleagues. I like to call them OCers because it's quite cool than saying Opencast colleagues, to share with us what their 10 most common myths are when it comes to working in tech. So it has been voted by OCers, and this lovely panel over here and online will give their experience. So let's get started. Ed, if you want to introduce yourself and let the audience know your role, not their role. Why would you want to let the audience know their role and why you decided to work in tech?
Thank you. Hi, so I'm Ed Harrison. I'm a junior user researcher as of the last month. Before that, I was working in the recruitment team. And why am I working in technology? Because, I mean, quick show of hands, who used the phone today? Laptop, computer? Pretty sure everyone in here. Exactly, it's such a core central part of our lives. When I was looking at careers, when I moved out of education, I was thinking, what sector do I want to work in? Where do I want to see myself? Which is an important part of the world we live in. And so I thought technology is so important, so central to our lives that it's the industry that I just want to be a part of because it's exciting, it's ever changing, always evolving. And to be part of that exciting kind of frontier is just where else to be, really.
Cool, thank you very much. Kerry?
Hello, I am the practice lead for quality assurance. I started with a bit of a squiggly career, so I originally was working in a call centre, and I got the opportunity to go and work doing some user acceptance testing on a new call centre application. So I kind of fell into it and then found that actually I really loved it.
Cool, thank you very much. Mark?
Yeah, Mark Hall, the consultant in agile delivery. I'll come on to a bit more on one of my questions later on about why. But with me, it's like, since I'm here, and I'll explain how I got here later on, but it's around like every day is just so different and brings a different challenge, whether that's in Opencast, whether you're on client or whether you're here in the Opencast, there's so many different opportunities, and working in tech, there's just always room for improvement. So find out what them improvements are and working towards making them better.
Thank you very much. And Srilekha? Hopefully she's there.
Good evening. Yeah, I'm working as a developer at Opencast for more than a year. Getting into tech, it's the interest of programming. It started when I was in my uni days. When I first started coding in electronics lab,
So that actually intrigued, and the same interest was continued, and even after a long career break, the interest actually got me into the tech. So that's why I'm here. Yeah.
Cool, thank you very much. So we'll have a lot more deep conversation in just a bit. So I have this fancy clicker, which is like, look at this next test, all that stuff. So if it works, there we go. We're going to go to our first myth. So you have to be good at or qualified in maths or science to work in tech. This is going to Mark. So first of all, how did you get into tech?
Yes, this is why I didn't answer the question earlier, because the ask us again very shortly.
All right.
So when I was 18, I just got my A levels. They were a little bit worse than I thought they would be, and I decided to take a gap year, and I was going to go to play rugby on a scholarship at university in the USA. In the meantime, one of my friends told me, because I was working at a bar, that you can have £1,000 if you do a training course at BT, and then you can just leave. But at the time, £1,000 was amazing, and I could drink a lot and party a lot on that £1,000. So I decided to do that and go and get my £1,000, and then 11 years later, I didn't go to university. And yeah, I did end up doing some university a degree within actual whilst working, but what got me and made me stay in tech was actually, so it was call center, a bit like what Kerry mentioned earlier on. And at first it was just like, I'm quite competitive. It was trying to be the best salesperson I could be. And then it was the best floor walker, manager, center manager, that type of linear approach. But then I started realizing and getting annoyed by certain things on the systems. And I didn't used to think this way. And I was like, I'm really annoyed at this. Can you improve it? And no one would do anything about it. And then, yeah, my career spun into different things.
Sorry. It's your bed.
And just on top of that, what would we like? People who have degrees, that's great, but the degree also is like a starting point, would you say? Yeah. It's not necessarily the entire answer.
Yeah, so I've got my phone because there's only one fact I need to remember, and it's that Charlie Holt of Opencast, who co-founded this, degrees in English and journalism, and Emily's, as I just found out an hour ago, is in Japanese. So Emily's head of user-centered design. Why that's important is because this is about maths or science, and neither of them are maths or science, and neither of them are linked to their actual study. I'm not saying don't do a degree or do a degree. I'm not saying either. It's up to each person and their preferences whether they do that or not. Yeah. But doing a degree or doing anything in life gives you skills, whether that's organizational, set of goals to try and achieve. Now, if that then leads you into, so if Emily did Japanese and went and become a Japanese teacher within a school, then that's fantastic. That's an amazing career, well done. But because she's went and done user research, that's also something amazing to celebrate. So what we're saying really is, in my opinion, you can do a degree, but like degree is not the only way to get into in this scenario. Like,
cool. How do we eradicate barriers into tech then around qualifications?
Yeah, so I think it's more about, I'll start with, I think there's a lot more being done now than ever. I think there's a lot of companies, Opencast being one of them, who focus on areas who wouldn't usually get the opportunities to come into tech. I know myself from being part of courses, I'm on one tomorrow where we're going to people and giving them a training course that they wouldn't usually get that opportunity to give. Now, there is more and more people doing that. So more and more people are going to realize, actually, my organizational skills might fit in that particular role, whereas they don't see themselves as, in my case, a delivery manager, but they might see themselves as an excellent nurse. Then they might actually go, well, maybe I could change my career and do that. So it is about that realization, getting out there if you've got them skills and being proactive about your knowledge, your mentoring, your coaching skills, if you can do that. But then also, as you see people asking questions out there on LinkedIn, social media, YouTube, whatever, go and answer them questions and be their ally, be the ally for every one of you and recommend them places to go as well.
And how much partying did you get done with £1,000?
About 3 nights out in Whitley Bay. That was
cool, thank you very much. So moving on to myth 2. Let me just find my notes. People who work in tech are introverted and socially awkward. This is going to Ed. So is it okay to be an introvert in the tech industry?
Most certainly, yes. I mean, contrary to popular belief, I am a very introverted person. I have very bad anxiety. Preparing for this, my heart still hasn't stopped racing, but that's fine. I'm quite very fortunate actually to be here at Opencast because it's a place that welcomes everybody and anyone, because being either introverts or I'm surrounded by lots of people who are also introverted. We've got people who are extroverted, very open, friendly, and outgoing. And we also have a lot of neurodiversity here. We have a variety of different people here at work. And everyone is made to feel welcome. And it's not just at Opencast where I felt that. I've worked in a few tech companies, and every time I've been there, we've had a variety of different personalities. You've had your introverted, your extroverted people and personality types. And so it's definitely not true to say, you have to be introverted and socially awkward to work in technology. But really, it shouldn't matter if you are introverted, extroverted, etc., because what's important is that we create these spaces that people feel free to be themselves, that they feel safe to, express themselves and talk about the things they're interested in. One thing I love about Opencast is that we have a Teams channels for pretty much everything, and if it doesn't exist, it'll probably exist at some point. I mean, just last week, I created a repair shop with a few other people because we realized that I was trying to repair a floor lamp. And
the BBC show.
A bit like that, but we're probably not going to do anything electronic because let's not give electric shocks. But, it was anyone got the tools to repair something. And so we came together, and we're now talking about, repairing little handheld vacuums and stuff. And I think that's lovely that people share interests. And by just having that space where people can express that, talk about it, So what I'm trying to say is it's more than okay to be introverted, to be extroverted, or if you're neurodiverse. What matters is that you're in a place that lets you be yourself and makes you feel safe to be just that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Interesting fact, when I did my Briggs, I am also an introvert. People might not think that, but I am. I do like my own space. Thank you. You touched on this already, but how important is it to bring your full self to work?
I mean, it's essential, and I'll explain this as to why in a second. But so here at Opencast, we have these neurodiversity natters that take place here live in this room, and they are on Teams as well, so people can join from all over wherever they are based in the country. And one of the topics we talked about was something called masking. Now, that was something I'd only just heard about. I never really knew anything about it before that event. But when I heard about it, I was then able to actually reflect and go, actually, this hugely applies to myself. And this is something I do every single day, more before I joined Opencast, because what essentially masking is, at least to me, is that I feel I need to hide who I am because to fit in with those around me. I don't want to show the inner Ed because I'm very self-conscious about being judged, about people thinking I'm weird, too talky, a bit quirky. As mentioned, my anxiety, I basically hide everything behind this kind of veils and facades, and I don't get to show who I am, and that's exhausting. It really is. I mean, trying to be something that you're not every single day, and you're worrying about that, you're not focusing on the task in front of you. So when I came to Opencast, and that's part of the reason why I joined, or a huge part of the reason why I joined, is because I love the kind of culture about it and how it's a place to encourage you to be yourself. You feel safe to talk to people, and everyone has peeps here, so you can talk about anything that's on your mind. We have mentors, we have people support us. We have one-to-ones with line managers and stuff. People basically want you to express yourself and be open and honest. So fostering that kind of culture of letting you be yourself is just huge. So I think you'll get a lot more out of people if you create that foundation for them, because if they're not spending the whole time panicking about who they are, they can spend all that time instead focusing on what they want to focus on. Yeah. So I think that's a really important thing to do.
No, absolutely. And what are the layers to introverts that we might need to consider?
So this was an interesting question, and it's an important one. And when I was researching it, I saw a lot of discussion between the differences between introverts and extroverts. And honestly, reading through some of those lists, I bet you could come up with a top 10 list of myths between introverts and extroverts. I mean, it was, everyone's different, everyone's unique. And a quote I saw when I was doing that research was, it's people are more than their personalities. And this goes back to what I said about masking. Okay, so what you see here on the surface, this outer Ed, isn't exactly what is going on inside inner Ed. And so, as I say, it's a layer. That's the surface layer, but beneath that layer, there's a complex soup, I guess, of what makes a person a person. So, you've got little chunks of introversion and lumps of pensive reflectiveness, and there's lots that makes the person. So, for example, if I'm sat here quietly and everyone's talking, doesn't mean I'm not paying attention. Doesn't mean I'm not working. I'm reflecting upon what is being said, and I'm taking it all in, and I'm thinking about how I can solve a problem. Yeah. And so if you peel back that kind of layer underneath, you'll realize that there's a lot happening down there. So it's not about being introverted or not extroverted. As I said, there's also neurodiversity, which we need to take into consideration. That is hugely important. We pride ourselves on being accessible and inclusive here at Opencast, and I think that's something we should reflect in all of our work. But people are more than the masks and their personalities. There's so much beneath them. So when we work with people, introverted, extroverted, neurodiverse, etc., we should approach everyone with that understanding that there are layers to them, that they are more than their masks, they're more than their personalities, and the way people work, the way they learn, they speak, they interact, it's all what makes them unique people. And I think once you start to understand that, you'll see the value that every single person around you will bring to the table if given the opportunity.
Thank you very much. That was lovely. Also, I love complex soup now. I feel like I'm going to use that. Yeah. So it's mine, so no one steal it. Kerry, men are better suited than women. Oh, sorry. There we go. Than women to work in tech. What an interesting one. Why do you think this myth is so common?
Let me give you a little bit of an example about my experience, and then maybe we can look at why it might be so common. So I didn't start working in tech originally. As I mentioned, I worked in a call center. When I was at school, I did study a little bit of IT, but it was never anything that had interested us. It was very basic IT that we did back in my day. So I went on to study accountancy and business studies. And I only studied for about a year and a half, and I thought, oh God, this is so boring. I hate accountancy. I can't stand it. So I decided to just quit, and I went to work in a call center. And I thought it's just going to be a temporary thing. I'll just be there for a little while, and then I'll find my place. 4 years later, I was still there, and I thought, what am I going to do with my life? And then I got the opportunity to be able to go away and do this user acceptance testing. And I thought, this is exactly what I need to do. I absolutely loved that, I had to go through all of the scripts and find the defects, and I was raising them with the developers, and I thought, yeah, I absolutely love this. So that's where my journey started. And the team that I had started working on, there was a female leader, there was a female test lead. The team was mostly made up of females. There were males on the team, but the overall QA team was a really good variety. The development team was mostly men. But I didn't really interact with them that much then. You just kind of raised a defect, and then that was it. It kind of went off and they did that thing, and then it was kind of hauled back over to the fence to you. Obviously, we don't work that way now, so there's been improvements made. And then throughout the rest of my years working within QA, I have had a number of teams where I have been the only person that's been a female on the team. I have worked where the majority of the team are males. And I always found that it didn't really matter to me. I went in and I did my job and I did it well because I enjoyed doing it. There wasn't really kind of a difference to me. Mm-hmm. as I mentioned, I have had leadership from both females and males. And in those, I've always learned from everyone. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. You're teaching each other, you're upskilling. If you've got the knowledge, you're sharing that knowledge. So for me, that's not true. Like it doesn't matter whether you're male or female. So I was supposed to be going through my little notes here and reading out some facts, but I kind of forgot. I got carried away there.
Well,
So-
why do you think in your QA specialism, do you think it's a very supportive kind of environment
Absolutely.
with men and women?
Absolutely.
Is there any like barriers, do you think?
No, I don't think there is. I mean, there have been instances, as I mentioned, where I was the QA, the only female QA on the team. And there has been conflict, but within any role there's conflict. There wasn't really anything because I was a female as such, but you know, I have always felt like, you know, I need to stand my ground, I need to show that I fit in here. So yeah, and I guess that's not just within my work life, not within a QA role, that's just me overall. I always go out and, you know, be independent, be strong. That's the kind of person that I am. So that's the role that I fill.
Sure. How can we, as a tech company, so Opencast, eradicate this myth? Or do you want to do the facts first?
Yeah, can I do my facts?
Yes, you
Because I
can do-
missed them.
We're going to do facts first.
Okay, so here at Opencast, hang on, it's this one. So plenty of women with successful careers in tech. There are plenty of women with successful careers in tech. And here at Opencast, there is actually a 50-50% balance on recruitment. Within my QA practice, we have 35% female, which is pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
But just because there is an imbalance, that doesn't mean that it's negative. It's not. Everybody works well with each other. We support each other, we guide each other. Gender doesn't matter. According to Gartner, companies with more equal representation are more profitable. It's a good fact, isn't it? Those with a minimum of one female on the board can outperform those with any women by 26%. So at Opencast, we've actually got 2 women on our board.
Yeah.
And we've got 15 women within our leadership community, which is great, isn't it?
It's a good party.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do we eradicate it?
So I've got some points on that as well. So there are certain things like equal pay.
Okay.
Equal pay is a massive thing, and I think, you know, that's one of the main reasons why women don't look to go into tech. So by eradicating that, if your company works towards making sure that, you know, you are ensuring that everybody is paid equally, which, you know, Opencast do. So that's the main thing. Second point I want to make is, if you supply female buddies, we do have a buddy system here, which is great. But if you also are ensuring that, you know, if there is a female, they get a female, that can really help to improve that whole process. Because sometimes, you know, it's really difficult when you start at a new place.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you do need a little bit of female on female time, and having that one person as your friendly face can make a massive difference.
Thank you very much.
Go
I'm
on.
okay to move on. Just from one empowering female to another, Srilekha. We're going to move on to the next myth. Let me just get my fancy clicker. So work in tech is all about staring at screens and typing code all day. So let's get started. If you could first describe what a typical day for you working as a developer is at Opencast.
Okay, yeah. My day, a typical day starts with a stand-up meeting. where the team gets aligned about the task, what they have done the day before and what they're going to do today, and what are the blockers. And we essentially communicate all our needs. Uh, if we really want some help, we need to communicate here. After the meeting, I start working on the assignment or issues, whatever we can say. Sometimes I work independently in one issue, or I pair program with other developers. So to start with my issue, I first need to understand the business requirements, which has been set by business analyst mostly. And if I have doubts in it, I clarify with the business analyst. And once the solution is decided, I have to start doing the actual coding. And if the solution is more complex, we have to come up with a design document, and we'll be responsible to create a clear and concise document, which should be understood by a non-technical person like business analyst and project managers in some cases. And after the coding is done, it will be delivered to the published and delivered to the testing team. And from then we have to support them eventually till the work is done. So apart from this, we will attend the sprint ceremonies, and there is retros, and we do the peer reviews, and we help other team members for their issues too. And we do knowledge sharing sessions. So typically, I would say 20 to 30% of my work will be coding. So instead of all day coding, it's 20 to 30% right now because of the project, which I'm currently in as more amendments instead of creating a new services. So the rest, apart from the coding, rest is interaction, collaboration with the team members. So I would say this cannot be true, like all day staring at the screen, typing code all day. It cannot be true.
Cool, thank you very much. How do you communicate with your colleagues at work? So what are the typical channels for you?
Yeah, we use Teams and emails in our client-side communication. And also we have separate groups, Teams channel for a project and individual project teams and developers in the team. So we can have some technical discussion. And in Opencast, the communication is through Teams. And as Ed mentioned, we have cross-community channels, and we have pretty much every channel, like architect channel, software delivery channel. So where we get the technical advice, and also it's very interesting to find out the common interest among our colleagues. So since I'm in London, I cannot travel to headquarters. If I want to have a face-to-face interaction, I can use the London hub. I can book appointments and just have a face-to-face interaction with our colleagues. So
yeah, so it's all about moving, whether you're physically moving or digitally moving. You're always communicating with different people in different ways to break up your work day. So it's not just you sitting there staring at the screen.
Definitely, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so moving on to myth 5. Work in tech is not creative. And we're going back to Mark for this one. So from your experience, how creative is working in tech?
Before I answer that, I'll give you the definition of Google, which I Googled a minute before this talk. So relating to or involving the use of imagination or original ideas to create something. So that's the definition I found on Google. So what was the question?
How creative is working in tech from your experience?
Yeah, it's came on leaps and bounds. So even if I go back in my career, so I've probably been in the agile area, which is a different way of working, probably about 6 years now. And when I first started, it was very much the business or the executives, someone quite high up in a business would say, this is the thing we want to do. and then it would slowly drip feed down until it got to a team, and then that team would do what they were told. So they'd write something called a business requirements document, which would give that stakeholder, that executive, what they want, and then it would go through the life cycle, and eventually it would be a product which was asked for about 9 months to 12 months later. What's changed in a really good way now is that teams work a lot closer, as Srilekha was saying, and everyone is part of the team. So it's not just about getting them business. I'm not going to lie, it still happens. You still, some days you'll think everything's swimming. I had one of them days today, and then all of a sudden it's like, how can we do this thing? And it's like, well, who is said to do that? So creativity, and going back to the Google definition of imagination, is absolutely paramount to making a successful team, and that is not just one person's responsibility. So I could go through every role that is in a multidisciplinary team, but even if I just pick off a few, I think of user-centered design. Of course, they've got to be creative, they've got to look, they've got to really understand the user need, they've got to understand the full end-to-end journey and the different accessibility requirements that might need, the different security requirements at all different touch points. It breaks off into a whole strand of different things. If you're not creative and you just do what you're told, then what will happen is you'll deliver something that isn't needed. So in order to be creative, you really have to get together as them teams. And I, in my honest opinion, from what I've seen, the whole of technology is going in a lot better way at the minute.
And how do you personally keep up with the demands of this evolving industry?
It's changing all of the time. And I think the best thing to do is, I think I gave this answer before, is come to days like today, is to go to community sessions, because before I came to Opencast, for example, Ed mentioned neurodiversity before. It's not a term I'd heard of. My wife's actually a nurse and she hasn't heard of neurodiversity. I've now been to 4 talks on neurodiversity since I got here, and I've now got, more recently, a neurodivergent person in my team. Now, before I joined Opencast, that would have scared me. But now I use my imagination and said, like, how can I make this the best experience for me and that particular person? And I think that's just what you've got to do with every challenge which tackles you. You've just got to be curious and not be scared by it. Meet it head on and go and do a little bit of research and talk to some people.
Cool, thank you very much. Now, the exciting bit is some audience participation, whether online or in person. So if you get your phones out, or if you buy your MacBook, other laptops are available as well. But we're going to do a quick Menti poll. So you pick the priority order for the next 5 myths that we're going to talk about. And we'll share the screen to see what is voted in first. All you need to do is go to menti.com. You can either use a barcode. Hopefully Ed is not in the way. Or you can type in the code 56551152, and we will share that as you're voting for it. Can I sit up? Yeah. Thank you. There we go. Hopefully it's always moving around. How exciting is this? The tech is working. Very exciting. Just while we're doing that, panel, how do we think it's going so far?
Yeah, I think it's going really well.
So it's kind of mesmerizing to watch.
I was too busy watching that. I was thinking, ooh.
While you are voting.
Sorry. Enjoyed it.
Oh, great. She says that with a glass of wine. While we are doing that, I also want to share our panel are very open to mentoring people who are interested in tech as well. So if you have any questions or interest in getting a mentor, our consultants do mentor externally, or I will make them mentor externally. And you can send an email to learning@opencastsoftware.com. We can put it in the chat after as well, if you are interested. We do mentoring in not one rigid way. It doesn't need to be extremely structured. It really depends what you want from mentoring. So it's really about you taking control of what you need. And we also do, sorry, Hazel's looking right at me and I'm like, I need to watch it. We also do sessions for mentors who are interested in mentoring internally, just getting them started. So it doesn't really have to be that complex. It's really what you specifically need from it, and we can help you with that. And if we can't, we'll always guide you to someone else who's more experienced. Not everybody's perfect at everything. Have we got all the votes in? I think we have. We're going to keep to this screen. So number one is, I need to get my other piece of paper. There is a plan, there is a structure. Once you learn a particular language / platform, you have to stay working on that. And that goes to Srilekha. Are you there?
Yes. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on this one? So has this been voted as the top priority to talk about? So in your experience, you've been learning a lot as a tech returner.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, actually, this was a myth. Actually, I had the myth actually before. So I started my career as a mainframe programmer, and I took a long career break. And after the career break, I definitely needed to learn a new language because lack of opportunities in mainframe. I had the same self-doubt whether I could be able to learn a new language and get to work on it. Is it possible? Same thing. Or am I going to be the same mainframe programmer forever?
Yeah.
So I started on with learning online courses. I started with Python, and I enrolled in Tech Returners program, which focuses on training experienced people to get back into tech industry. So there I learned JavaScript. And once I joined Opencast, I've been in the program for learning Scala. So that's a new different language. And right now I'm working in Java. So you can ask me a question. Have you mastered the 4 languages which I've learned recently? Definitely not. I've not mastered it. But the thing is, I am able to deliver what's the work given, and I can do the work effectively. And that's what we needed, right? As a consultant, we need to be agile enough to get our work and open to learn new technologies. And there are fluctuations in consultancy work, right? Where you will be driven to new team, new technology, and new language and skill sets. So I would consider this as a useful skill of moving from one language to another language. And we can also master it. It's not that we cannot master the language. We can master it if we have the opportunity for some number of years or some time in the project. So definitely this can be done, and people doesn't need to stay in the same language or platform. So we need to be open to learn new technology. Yeah.
Thank you very much. This has worked out really good for me because I'm still on the same page. The second one is work in tech is not about people. Mark.
Hello again.
Is work in tech not about people?
I mean, I'm quite passionate. I could speak for a long time about this. I actually think it's the opposite around. I think tech is completely about people. So from a delivery manager perspective, what we try to do is try to create psychologically safe environments for our teams to feel like they can tell us the honest truth and what's actually happening, which relates to maybe why they can't progress on certain things. So that's one of our rules, and everyone on the team's responsibility to create that. But it's about people. So if we just go in and say, I've seen it before, you know, we're going to create a psychological safe environment and we're going to write it on a board and then we're not going to think about it anymore, then nothing's going to change. So to make it about people, you need to really understand what people are, and Ed's touched on loads of fantastic things today, and it is really understanding what each individual has different to one another and how they can tell you how you can work with them, and actually vice versa. We as humans need to be open to actually speak to each other. So I haven't mentioned too much on user-centered design. I would like to quickly mention, of course, we think of the user. The user is not always the customer. So in a circumstance, you think a user research, the user would be the customer. So I used to work for BT, so you automatically assume it's the person who's watching BT Sport or on the telephone or with the broadband. It's not. The user might be the person in a call center where Kerry used to work before. It might be the person standing in a retail shop. It might be someone who's actually running one of the roles. So it's really important to consider everyone. Once again, I think we're better at doing that. And things like mentoring, coaching really help that individual time to understand the reality of what the problems are.
No, absolutely. What do you think, like, what are the, not barriers, but what kind of stops people from like learning or moving on? What kind of is in place, like, to stop them from doing that?
I think the big one of speaking to people before is their lives are too busy. Life being work life, personal life, not just work or personal life. It's the combination of your day from the start to the finish. And if you say to someone, right, okay, can you, when anyone new in the team joins, have a half an hour call with them? I don't have time to do that. Because you probably don't in your current diary, but you've got to like adapt and you've got to make that time. And by making that time and then actually sustaining it as well. So rather than just, hi Khaled, welcome to Opencast, see in a year's time when we're next on this sofa, it's actually, hi Khaled, I'll speak to you again in a month's time, and we'll just keep these conversations up. And then that real understanding and empathy of one another. So actually go back what it says, you build that trust and actually build the understanding of that person. And then because you've got a better understanding, you can then start to work with them better as well.
Cool, thank you very much. The third most voted one was, if you work in tech, you'll end up working solo rather than with others. And that's Kerry, from your experience.
So in my experience, if you were sitting working on your own for the whole time, you wouldn't be able to deliver anything. How do you know what the requirements are? How do you know what the user needs are? So I think that, you know, there are opportunities where you would maybe sit for a short while, maybe, and write some test cases, or you might do some coding, or you might look at doing some technical design. There could be loads of things. I want to learn about this thing, I'm going to go and do that for an hour. But realistically, when you're in a project, you know, you've got a whole multidisciplinary team that you work with. So, you know, that might be, for me, for instance, when I was working within one of our client sites, I'll be working every day with the developers, I'll be working every day with the testers, I'll be working with the BA, the product owner, everyone within that team I had to collaborate with. I had to make sure that we were doing refinements within the tickets to make sure that acceptance criteria was correct. I was having 3 Amigo sessions. We were getting together to make sure that we all had the same information. We're all on the same page. We knew exactly what we were delivering. We would have sessions with the client to make sure that what we'd built was correct. So, you know, working every day on your own, no. Yes, you might have the opportunity to work on a task on your own, but you wouldn't be able to deliver anything if you are working solo.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And from Srilekha's point before around community sessions, how important are community sessions? I know you can only base it off your experience at Opencast. How important are they?
Really important. So we do run community sessions at Opencast, but we also participate in the community sessions on the client side. And it's a really good place for you to learn and understand their frameworks, their models, any boilerplates that they've got in place. You know, you can learn from them as much as they learn from you. Not only that, within Opencast, because we are cross, we can go into a product owner meeting, we could go into a developer meeting, we could go into a UCD meeting, and you can learn everything that you need to know. So it's really, really important. Obviously, you don't want to go in and learn like the whole role as if that's what I'm going to do next. Let's do another squiggly career. No, it's not about that. It's about learning exactly, you know, what you need to know from that role and how you can understand your peers.
Thank you. The next one, tech professionals are always on call and have no work-life balance. Srilekha, this is back to you. Is there no life, well, can't speak now, no work-life balance? Oh, you're on mute. Oh, there we go.
I have work-life balance. Okay. Because I was a stay-at-home mom for so many years, my children had their own expectations. I was a bit anxious when I rejoined last year for work, but luckily I work from home, so and I am able to manage and I can fulfill the expectations. And it also depends on the project teams where the meetings are scheduled in such a way they don't do it in school run, and we have some flexibility during the working hours to attend our essential appointments like medical appointments, so which also helps us to the balance. And and working from home also has a con, like we don't have a social interaction. That's why Opencast has community sessions, and we have social events and conferences. That's a place where we can recharge ourselves, take a break, and recharge ourselves um, to have a balance. Yeah, I think I have a balance now. Yeah.
I have to say the conferences are good from my experience, but we won't get into that. So the last one then, if you've ever had a career doing something else, you can't get a job in tech, and this goes to Ed.
Yes, it does. Can't get a job in tech if you've done something else. I am what you would call a super squiggler or a serial squiggler. And I'm going to give you a quick whistle-stop tour, so seatbelts on, because it's going to be a lot in 60 seconds. So I'm originally a product designer. I graduated, went on to do a PGC, became a teacher for a while. Didn't quite enjoy teaching, so became a technician, working and supporting lessons. Eventually moved out of that, and then I went through a series of weird jobs, such as a scarecrow actor. I used to be working at a theme park as an entertainer. I would do pig races and stuff like that. I then went on to be a haunted clown house manager. That was a fun job. So I ran a very good clown house. If you need tips, come to me. After that, I then entered into technology for the first time. So I became a data protection engineer. And then through that, I became a project coordinator. Left technology to become a creative consultant in the board game industry. To support myself while I was doing freelance, I then became a projectionist at the cinema, and then eventually got taken full-time on as a developer for board games, then became project coordinator for that company, then moved back to technology for a second time as a project coordinator before then leaving during lockdown, using COVID as an opportunity to go back to university and learn while the market was a little bit stagnant for most people like myself. And then when I graduated, I then applied to Opencast to do user research. Wasn't quite successful, but they did love me, I think, in the interview. At least that's what I say. And they offered me an opportunity to be a coordinator in the recruitment team, with the understanding that because they want to, facilitate and help people squiggle and wriggle their way through their careers, gave me an opportunity then to move into user research in the future. So you might have noticed that was 3 times I've come into technology and left. And so the point is that if you've never had a job in technology, you can quite easily get in, even if you haven't got a background, because, and I remember what the hiring manager said the first time I went to technology. And what he said to me, well, back then, about 10 years ago, is as relevant then as it is now, is we can train you to do the job. We can't train you to be the person you are. And so they hired me based on the idea that I'm someone who was keen, was driven, someone who's wanting to learn, and just need the opportunity to do just that. And so they said that we can teach you the skills, just, we want to get you in. And every time I've come back to technology, it's been for that exact same reason. It's not because I'm particularly good at technology. As I say, my specialty is in woodwork and stuff like that, and 3D printing. But because I'm willing to learn, it's, people see that, and it's quite easy. And as Mark has mentioned, it's not just about coding and staring at screens all day. It's about being creative. It's about working with your users in the UCD team, understanding their pain points, their needs, and understanding how to solve problems. It's by working as a business analyst and working with the stakeholders, understanding the needs of the business and making sure projects stay on track and fulfill those needs. It's so much more to a tech role than just sitting down and being good at tech. It's about good with people, good with customers, users, stakeholders, etc. And there's support roles as well. Within the company, we've got a fantastic people team here at Opencast. So But anyway, I digress. Anyone can work in in technology. It's about creating a solid foundation to give people the opportunity to move into the role and to grow.
Brilliant. What a brilliant summary as well. I wish we could talk about this more, but we want to get your participation as well online. I look up there because I'm usually, when I'm doing something, I'm looking at that camera in the sky. Or yeah, online or in the room. So do we have any questions for our panel?
I've got one for Kerry. So I think the role, one of the roles of QA is to convince developers that they don't know everything. We developers, we don't know everything, we're not getting everything right all the time, and that actually we've missed something. I think a lot of these myths come from developers themselves being like, this is what it takes to work in tech. And as somebody that's constantly convincing developers that they don't have it quite right, what do you think we can do to convince people that actually, yes, you might be a developer, but there's more in tech than just you? Because I think that's one of the biggest issues is people convinced that they're the only thing that's worthy in tech. How can we convince them that there's more worth in tech than just being that 10x developer?
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's that you're having to convince the developer, more that, you know, you're equal within the role. So for me, I feel like there has been a massive shift over the years. You know, back in the day, when I mentioned earlier on, they would literally just chuck it over the fence and then you wouldn't get to speak to them. You would just do the work and then go, yes, it's ready, it's fixed, or sorry, it's not working. Whereas now, you know, you can have that communication, you can go over and talk to the developer and say, I don't think this is quite right, can I have a chat about it? And you can even pair through it. So for me, I think there has been a massive shift. There is still time, you know, we still do need to make improvements, but I think that with time that will come.
Cool, thank you. Any audio? Oh, okay.
I mean, one of my thoughts on that is making sure we as a industry give voices to all the different sort of disciplines. Because I think to your point, there is this kind of tendency to think about the very tangible act of writing the code. But as we all know within the industry, that's one piece of the puzzle. And I think it's been great in this panel to have that diversity of voice and that collective voice. And I think the more we do that, and the more we talk about the fact also that people cross the disciplines and that there's constantly new disciplines that are being created, things like DevOps and stuff that they didn't really exist a while back. That's going to continue to happen. So I think it's, trying to not have that them and us, but trying to have that kind of it's a collective thing. There are all these different disciplines and actually it's quite fluid is a sort of, a thing that I think is great for everyone to think about. How do we give that voice? And so I guess we're trying to do that as Opencast, but I think it'd be great if that's also a collective thing that everyone's trying to do. So.
We've got a bunch of questions that have come in online, and as Khaled said, if we run out of time, the panelists kindly agreed to take them as Q&As perhaps afterwards. But we've got one in, which is a myth question, which is, will the arrival of ChatGPT and AI generally have a detrimental effect on the tech industry, or is that a myth?
Who would like to take that one?
I'm happy to give my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not qualified to give the answer.
So it's one of the most mainly talked about things at the minute, and rightly so. I went to a talk recently with Bill from the BBC where he talked about it as the biggest thing, bigger than television, bigger than mobile phones, bigger than the internet. And he's probably right. We don't really know. There is a lot of uncertainty around it. We don't actually know ethically how it's sourced. We don't understand what the actual damage of putting our information in is yet. We might know this in years to come. Right now, we know it answers our questions really quick. It might write a LinkedIn post within a second rather than procrastinating for 2 hours. But we don't know the damage of that long term. Another great point by Bill that day was you can choose to ignore it and just pretend it's not there and get on with your day life. But other companies and other individuals will use it to their advantage. And how I use it to my advantage now is when I would usually procrastinate for a while on an idea or a workshop I might facilitate, I'll just ask the question. I won't put my personal information in. I won't put anything about my client, nothing about Opencast. I might put, I am an agile delivery manager, or I'm an agile coach, and this is what I'm trying to do. But I won't put anything more than that, and it'll give me a straw man of an idea. I'll take that straw man, and that might save me 2 hours of procrastination. Now, going back to use it or be left behind analogy, what that means is the people who continue not to use it will be at a disadvantage to those who are. So then will they be seen better or not? So there's a lot of uncertainty around it. My personal opinion, from I've been to several talks quite recently, is it is an uncertainty. No one really knows a lot about it, but it's coming, and there's something there, and there's lots of programs and governing body right across the world working on trying to make it ethical, trying to make it understood, and trying to give people confidence in actually using it, as well as public and private organizations. But for the time being, I think it goes without saying that personal or public information about either government sectors or private sector information, or your own personal medical information maybe, is just dangerous to put into that machine at this very moment in time.
Okay, another question, which is, if you haven't worked in an IT specific role, is it a myth to say that you'll only come into an organization based on the transferable skills that you have?
It's a myth to say you've come through. Sorry, say one more time, sorry.
Can you come into an organization without tech knowledge and just on the transferable skills that you have?
I mean, I would say it is a myth, definitely. I mean, every role you move between, even if you're on a, even if you are someone who's like a developer, or, will have transferable skills that they're going to bring across. So, for example, when we interview some of our developers, we don't interview them based on the programming language that they know. We interview them based on one that they don't know. We want to understand the ways that they work, the way they problem solve, the way they come at these issues, and how their mind starts to work and to overcome these challenges. And so I think transferable skills are very important. So I think it is a myth that you aren't going to move across based on just one thing. There is so much at play. So yeah, I would say that's definitely a myth.
I think the only thing I'd like to add on to that is at Opencast, it's more than just your specific skill set. Is who you are as a consultant is very important to us, because everyone could have these expert tech skills, but if you haven't got that consultant magic that we're looking for, consultant magic, I like that, then it's not going to work for Opencast. So it's like those skills are important. That's not a specific tech skill in itself. So yeah, that's just a myth.
Exactly. Just to quickly build on that is that, because we have these multidisciplinary agile teams, if you haven't got those transferable skills, ability to work with other people, different disciplines and stuff, and understand the value that they bring to the team, and the perspectives that they bring, and the insights that they might have that are different from your own, without that skill set to be able to understand that, I think you're going to have a very difficult time fitting in to these teams. So I think it's, transferable skills are incredibly important, because we don't just live in silos. We live in, we are in these very complex environments. We're surrounded by complex people.
Does anyone want to add to that, or should we go to, oh, bless you. Does anyone want to add to that, or should we go to another? Have we got time for another question?
Yeah, I think we have. If you've been working in creative roles like communications and graphic design, are your opportunities to work in tech limited?
Oh, Kerry?
Can you say that again?
If you've been working in creative roles like communications and graphic design, are your opportunities to work in tech limited as a result?
Well, I guess that's kind of the same as the previous one as well, isn't it? If you've got those transferable skills, if you've got the right values, and you're able to upskill in kind of that role that you would need to, no matter what it is, then yeah, there's no reason why you couldn't.
I've got a stakeholder management question for Mark. And we're working in consultancy, so it's a challenging one. Do you think you can ever convince a stakeholder to change their mind about design ideas and the product that they think that they want?
No, it's very difficult. You know, it's an everyday problem. You hear of companies like Netflix, and Spotify even has their own model. It's called the Spotify model. And companies aspire to be like these companies, and they aspire. There's a talk from someone from Amazon, I can't remember his name, but effectively what he was saying is they have teams which are built on, they have no dependencies. What they develop does not. So if you think about the Amazon website, it's quite basic, and there's a reason behind that. And so there is no dependencies either side. So if that team wants to deliver something, they have full autonomy to do that. The reality, from my experience in public and private organizations, is these programs are massively complex, and they do have a whole host of dependencies. So a product vision in some cases might be a government minister decision, which is actually announced on TV. And then it's quite hard to actually turn that into, well, actually, no, Mr. Minister, we're not going to do that. And we're going to do this because the user said it. So it's not straightforward, is the answer. Is it possible? In small organizations, it's a lot easier. In more complex environments, it is possible. But I always go back to, like, when we think of agile, for those who maybe haven't heard of that term, it's not about in 2 weeks' time we change your organization. It's in 2 weeks' time we get 1% better or even 0.5% better. And it's that some people can get beat up by the constant pushback to stakeholders in that stakeholder conflict situation to continually improve. And I think there was an earlier talk where someone talked about measuring your success and celebrating success. That's a great way of actually realizing we've came this far. When I first joined the government as a final point, they said to me, I was like, I found 50 things in my first week I want to improve, and I wanted to improve them all straight away. And they were like, but it's a lot better than it was last year. And I was like, no, you can't say that. But now I'm here a year later working there, and I'm like, it's a lot better than it was last year.
Going back to the idea that it's like all about tech, it's all about coding. I think this is a really important point where actually stakeholder management and kind of working with people, conflict management is an incredibly valuable skill for people working in tech these days. Something Emily said around, you know, people just want to build something and they're like, we've built this thing, nobody needs it, nobody wants it, but actually convincing people of what they actually need is a really, really important skill. So as a coder, I can't do that. So I rely on people like you to do that for me.
Yeah, it's really important, because just the last point is everyone wants to be, it's product driven, because effectively these plans program level get made, which give the executive or the minister exactly what they've said on live television in the government example. But then sometimes it's about actually, well, the user research says this, or the service design journey said these, and these are the pain points. So these are actually the assumptions we should be working on, not X solution or Y this. It's difficult, and it's just about that challenge. And people within the product delivery community and everyone in the team should be going on that challenge together. It's not one person's job. I don't like it when people say, I'm a delivery manager or an agile coach. I don't like it when people say it's just my role. It's not, it's everyone's role when they speak to the stakeholders.
Okay, well, what an hour that was. So thank you to our panel. Thank you to Srilekha. Thank you to Mark, Kerry, Ed. I also thank myself.